BBN, welcome into another episode of Believe in Kentucky. We got the fellas in here, the usual crew. Got from the Cat's Paws, AG, Aaron Gershon, the QB1, Jalen Whitlow in here. Fellas, how we doing?
As I said, as a joke to you, Vinny, when we hopped on, I'm better than the football team and Mark Stoops right now. That's for sure. Obviously, we'll touch on everything that happened in Knoxville, but just a brutal weekend there. But that's what Tennessee's doing to a lot of teams. They're the number one team in the country, in the college football playoff poll for a reason. And UK can get back on track, or they can lay down, and we'll find out which one happens. Out in Missouri on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm good, man. Got a chance to go to the game. That was my first Kentucky game since I played there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I knew that one was gonna be a tricky one going to that one, but I'm still glad I went. But man, I wish we could have produced some offense. But one thing you got to give props to Tennessee. At the end of the day, they're the number one team in the country.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, that was one of the most fun environments I think probably college football has to offer.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying what they do with the fireworks and what they do with the lights and the band, playing the Halloween. I mean, it was cool. And I told the kid that I coached there, I was like, man, you lucky, man. He go to the right school at the right time. When Tennessee's doing what now, obviously it's still a lot of football to play, but I like Heupel. I like what he's doing. Just taking the rivalry out of it. I think from a football standpoint, Heupel's doing a hell of a job, man. As far as generating a lot of positive energy around the program. Ultra competitive. Obviously recruiting is going to take a spike.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's a lot of good. And I like it from a football standpoint. At the end of the day, the better the SEC, the better football we see. At the end of the day. So Kentucky definitely got to bounce back. Missouri is tricky, man. And I'll talk about that later.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they got a good defense.
AG is just this is the road trip he's been waiting for.
I'm already falling asleep at the wheel, and I ain't even driving yet.
Oh man, I was messing with you, man. But yeah,
I know. Yeah, no, but to echo what Jalen said, that was that might have been the best atmosphere I've been to so far. Just my years covering. The new, like Jalen touched on, the new lights. They have these orange and white strobe lights going on. It looks like a huge concert. And it's awesome. And, the T all lit up, they turned down all the lights and had them run through the T with the T all lit up. It was a spectacular atmosphere, and you got to give credit to their fan base. And like Jalen said, Josh Heupel and what he's done in that program really, really quickly. And, that's going to be an attractive offense that recruits are going to want to play in. And that's why, you look at what Kentucky's doing offensively, and you have to worry. Is it going to be attractive for kids? Is it going to be something that, they can get turned around and say, we had success in it last year. We have a little bit of a different variety with a different offense coordinator, and we could still have success. I think these next 4 games, especially, to have at least a showing against Georgia and to be able to kind of obviously they're not going to be blowouts in the SEC. Maybe Vanderbilt will, but you got to just show something on offense. You got to show you're capable offense in these last 4 games, especially, the 3 games against teams where going into the year you chalk up as a win. So this is a really, and it's not going to matter in terms of winning an SEC East. It's not going to matter the team's ultimate goal going into the season, but it is going to matter for the future of this program. And obviously how this team is viewed in UK's history. There's no doubt about it. So it's a huge game this weekend, and there's still a lot to play for, even though the big goal and the big exciting bowl game is kind of out of the window.
Missouri, like y'all said, better than everybody thought.
Way better.
Media days, you see Drinkwitz and man, this dude, and I kind of dismiss him, and they could have, Stoops said himself Monday, they could have fallen apart at Auburn the way they lost that game. They played Georgia better than anybody all season
Yep.
long. They probably should have beat Georgia. You quit settling for field goals, and they would have beaten Georgia. And this Tennessee Georgia game wouldn't be, two unbeatens going at it. Uh, it is 11 o'clock Central Time kickoff out there in Como. Don't let it be cold and dreary, and you got that drab stadium and the rocks out there, and not even got bleachers and
Ah,
all that whole thing. If you don't get your mind right, you're gonna let one become two again, and you'll crawl back to Lexington 5-4, and that's woo. That'd be a real mess.
Jalen, what you think? You must have played in Columbia at least once. What's it like out there?
And I think I told y'all how I felt about it. I again, I'd rather play anywhere else. I'd rather play at Vanderbilt.
At least you're in Nashville.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, family's closer. I know people in Nashville. I remember when we were at Kentucky. We were like, man, this is like not good. It was like it was hard to, it's that point of the season always, at least back, and even now where
Yep.
The excitement of the season is gone. Obviously, you like football; it's a game. People are going to be there on TV, but the excitement, that extra excitement that kind of gets you up to play, is gone. So going to Columbia is a tricky one, man. It's tough. I mean, it's very underwhelming. So, we're going to see how good, Stoops can do, how good the team leaders can be when it comes to getting guys up and ready to play, because that I think they got a good thing in Columbia as far as how underwhelming it is, because teams go in there and they go to sleep.
Look at Georgia.
Georgia went to sleep. And let me say this, Missouri is a good team. Like, people keep downplaying Missouri. Like, not Kentucky, but like just the media downplays when Missouri plays football. Missouri beat Auburn. I don't care what nobody said. They beat Auburn.
Yep.
They didn't beat them, but they beat them. Like, I mean, the guy fumbled the ball like
the 1 yard
a centimeter from the. I mean, like literally, like. And then the Georgia game, just hang on, hang on. They beat Georgia.
14 minutes. Yep.
Yeah, so this is, again, this is a game that scares me, honestly. The Tennessee game was okay, as long as you don't get blown out. You don't want to have that mentality, but that's what happened. But you don't want to have that mentality. People could have chalked it up. The pressure would be lighter if, okay, we lost by 18 or 14 or 17, whatever. That's a good team. It's the number one team in the country. They obviously are better than us. And they were. Tennessee was the better football team on the field. Call it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the Missouri's not the better football team, I don't think, talent-wise. So this is the one you got to win, or things can get really go sideways if you don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the thing that's scary about Missouri is they match up really well with Kentucky. I mean, what Kentucky doesn't do well is play offense. At this point, they just have a bad offense. It is what it is. They have good players, I think, especially at quarterback and at the skill positions, but they're just not playing like a good offense. And Missouri has the number 19 defense in the country. They're top 25 against the run, and they're top 30 against the pass. They do everything well. They get to the quarterback. I think they're tied for 5th in the conference in sacks. They have a beast at defensive end and Isaiah McGuire, who's, feels like every play is around the quarterback. So, this is a tough matchup. And man, they're excited for this game. I mean, we all remember the comments at SEC Media Day with Martez Manuel, the DB, saying he hates Kentucky. And he went on a whole rant about, all these close losses that he's seen both as a player and as a recruit. Knowing Missouri was his place, and they're inspired. They want to win this game, and it feels like for them that it's a step up for them because Kentucky has passed them in the SEC East hierarchy. There's no doubt about it. And if Missouri can win this game, they're ahead of Kentucky in the standings. They own the South Carolina tiebreaker. They're in 3rd place in the SEC East. They're that 3rd team this year behind Tennessee and Georgia. So this is a huge game for them, and they know it. This is we saw the reaction that South Carolina had when they beat Kentucky. They felt like that was kind of like a building block win. I don't know if Missouri has that same feeling anymore because Kentucky's no longer ranked, but it's close to it. It really is. And it's just unless I mean Kentucky defensively should be able to be just fine. Missouri's offense, they have pretty good receivers and Dominic Lovett and Luther Burton, but the quarterback's not great. They're 87th in the country in yards. They're not much better in scoring. So, you feel good about it, but man, if you let it become one of those slugfests and you can't score points, we saw it at Ole Miss. It didn't go Kentucky's way. We saw it against South Carolina. It didn't go their way. They got to score points. And if the offense shows up, they'll win this game. If they don't, yeah, it's going to be a devastating loss.
We were talking on my other podcast, Cats Talk Wednesday, and I was kind of, when the whole, and we talked about it, you and I, AG, I think you might have been on too, Jalen, or it might have been just before you came on, the whole Cal Stoops thing, the whole, we're a basketball school. I thought Cal could have said what he wanted to say without that. And I was cool with Stoops kind of responding and getting fired up. He might have went too far with the whole born on third base thing, but, I understand that he was fired up. So to be fired up and to clap back and all that, you can't be losing South Carolina and Missouri and all these teams that you passed in the league, and then you let them pass you back after you talk that talk, and now we struggling to walk that walk.
Yeah, and you know what? The biggest thing when that happened was the other schools. Arkansas, Auburn, Tennessee, all having fun on Twitter. And Jalen was there; he saw it. Tennessee had their ring ceremony for the SEC basketball championship, and all their players went up to the Kentucky section, float in the ring. They brought the baseball team out. They came over and talked crap. I mean, they were using that. They were using that, and so that's unfortunate. But yeah, you're exactly right. They can't be losing these games. To lose, I mean, if they lose this game and you lose to South Carolina and Missouri in the same season, the two of the three teams that you've passed, Florida being the other, and to see that kind of start to tilt the other way, because man, that would be devastating. And South Carolina, I'm not a big Shane Beamer guy, as I've made pretty clear, but they're going in the right direction. They have a lot of NIL money. They're getting really good recruits. I don't know about Missouri. I know Luther Burden's a 5-star guy. They were able to keep home. But it seems like they're building something at least on defense with their new defensive coordinator. So man, you can't fall behind the 8 ball. And we all know Florida's on the rise again with how their recruiting's going. So yeah, this would be a really devastating one. It's pretty damn close to a must win.
Yeah, I kind of agree with everything you said, man. To me, this is the reality of the situation. To me, my opinion. Not everybody's gonna get fired up with this one, but this is my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
When I got to Kentucky, we had a lot of really good players. We didn't have a lot of really good depth. Kentucky now has good players and good depth. But at the end of the day, Stoops did a good job of bringing a culture, like a standard, a kind of expectation that they do a good job of living up to. He's a good coach, and especially when it comes to that. He's a good coach, allows players to relax and play loose and have fun. He's good with the X's and O's on defense. He's an overall good football coach at the end of the day. But the reality of the situation is we lost when I was at Kentucky for a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons was we were very limited with depth. And we were small in some areas. But we were very top heavy. We had the Bud Duprees, we had the Zadarius Smiths, Avery Williamsons, the Larry Warfords. We had those guys. Kentucky, at the end of the day, if you really look at it, they filled more holes, but they don't necessarily have a Avery Williamson on his team. I don't think so. They don't have a Zadarius Smith on his team. I just don't think so. On the offensive line, they don't have a Larry Warford. I don't think so. But they have more depth. So at the end of the day, yes, they have done a great job of recruiting, but Kentucky is not very far from the Missouris of the world. They're not very far from South Carolina at all.
No,
You
they're
know,
close.
I think they're better coached, especially with Coach Stoops. But as far as talent, they're not very far from these teams. And when things aren't going well, and again, I got a long list of things that I wrote down here for talking about offense. So I'll get to that
Yeah.
in a minute. But what I'm trying to say is, yes, they filled holes. They have more depth. But when it comes to those Pro Bowl type players that we had, I don't think Kentucky have many of those on the team. This is just my opinion. I just don't think they do. So when it comes time to get a sack, they can't get a sack. When it comes down to making a spectacular play in the back end, they don't really have that dude to do that. When it comes down to making great plays at receiver, they got a lot of talent at receiver. This is the most talented group, but they don't have that one freaking dog that a lot of teams have. They don't have now. Chris Rodriguez is that dog on offense when it comes to get him the ball, but outside of that, and this is just being honest, man. And I sat there and watched the game and was like, man. And I watched them in warmups. I'm like, okay, they look good. They filled holes. They look bigger, but Stoops is just doing a really damn good job at covering that shit up, man. He is like at the end of the day, he is. They're recruiting better and filling holes. But Mark Stoops, and I said this a while ago, he need a statue. He's done a really good job at covering the holes. They are not better than Tennessee player-wise. No, they are. And like you said, South Carolina may have edged them out talent-wise.
Yeah, it's very close.
South Carolina has talent. They're in a talent-rich area. So at the end of the day, and this is what I meant to say, I mean, you gotta, like, these last few games on offense, you have to produce because you're already tinkering that line when it comes to guys getting out of there because they're not getting the ball. You're tinkering that line when it comes to guys going to Tennessee instead. You got guys on the brink who may go to Missouri because Missouri's going to get them the ball. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, if you're a high school athlete, you want the freaking ball. If you play offense, if you're that type of dog. So I say that to say they have to perform on offense these last few games. In the bowl game. They have to. There's no way around that. You can dice it up however you want. Stoops alluded to it in his press conference. He kind of left a message, I think, in my opinion, to the offensive side of the ball. Get this stuff right at the end of the day.
Or you're not going to last. That's what he said.
Because I sat there and watched. I'm like, man, Tennessee is head and shoulders more talented. And Tennessee had 30 guys leave the program 2 years ago. Or a year and a half ago, whatever it was. So this, and this is no not to anybody, but this is, if anything, you're saying that Mark Stoops is better than what most people make him out to be. Because when I watched the team, I didn't see any when you watch Zadarius Smith on Saturdays, you like that's an NFL defensive end. Period. You did. Now I know Kentucky got two inside backers out. Those two guys are really good, but when you watch Bud Dupree, you like that guy is going to play Sundays for a long time. You watch Larry Warford, my freshman, you like that guy is a monster. You did. So, and again, they got to continue to recruit, continue to build that thing because they don't want to fall behind in that.
Yeah, to go off to your points, I mean, you just look at all these teams that have won bowl games or been in them. Obviously 2016 through 18, Josh Allen, NFL, Mike Edwards, Benny Snell didn't have the same NFL success, but he. We all know what he was, and all those guys on the offensive line, there's too many to go through. 2019 with Lynn Bowden, I mean, that is a superstar. 2020 even, I mean, I know he was a head case, but Kelvin Joseph was the SEC leader in interceptions and obviously still had all those big guys on the offensive line, like, the Landon Young to the world. And then flash forward to even last year, Wandale Robinson, superstar. And this year, Chris Rodriguez is and Will Levis are the two guys you point to, right? Rodriguez has done pretty well. I mean, he's done really well at times. The offensive line is just not great, and that's hurting him. And now, and what you saw, and I'm sure we'll talk about with the play calling here, you saw Tennessee load the box, 9 guys in the box, And what did Kentucky do? They stuck to the run on first and second down every single drive. And eventually, to not Chris's fault, they're going to pick up on that, and they're going to, not 9 or 10 hats to the ball, and you're going to get taken down. So, and then, with Will, whether it's injuries, I didn't think the game plan was good. I didn't think he had a good game. Obviously, the interception late, you could probably chalk up to him forcing it, but he also underthrew one. Whatever. He missed a wide open guy, had a bad game, but it just hasn't been the star level we wanted to see this year. It hasn't taken that next step, at least in my opinion. I see all the NFL traits. I don't think it's going to hurt his draft stock. He just hasn't been the dude that's going to carry you to wins like, I mean, even against Ole Miss and Tennessee. So, or Tennessee out the window at Ole Miss, which a team I think is pretty similar talent-wise. So, yeah, they definitely don't have the dudes. And you worry about recruiting for the future. You worry, obviously, like you touched on, Jalen, the guys like the Dickel Crowdises and the Chris Lewises who don't get the ball much, but also the guys who are playing really well and one can see their game might be go to an even bigger level if they were to transfer to a Tennessee. And two, remember, Kentucky football is still behind the 8 ball with NIL now. And Tennessee is churning out money. Georgia's churning out money. South Carolina, Alabama, even Ole Miss has done pretty well lately. Florida. I mean, I can go on and on about schools doing really well in the NIL market. And, I can tell you from the reporter side of things, there are names on this roster right now who are significant players that are thinking about transferring. And the only way to stop that is winning some games and looking good while doing it.
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead, Vinny. I know you guys.
Oh, I was just going to say, over the summer, having said all that, and Kentucky is still tossed out there as one of the contenders to be second in the East. Who's going to challenge Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee? Without having these dudes, without having these NFL guys, without having a Dupree, having the guys with the dog in them, do we still think that they had the pieces to do what we thought they were going to do? Or, we didn't know the offensive line was going to be as flawed as it is.
Yeah.
But on paper, did we still think they've got all the pieces in place? They've got a quarterback that's going to be a first rounder. You got the SEC returning rusher coming back. You got a talented trio of freshman receivers. The receiver room is better than it has been. The tight end room is deep. Defensively, you got a good rotation. This Walker kid is playing better than we thought.
Awesome.
You got Rodgers. So were the pieces in place for them to challenge like everybody thought they were going to do over the summer? Or
that's a good question.
A false hope or what?
I think the pieces were there. I think there's been a mix of underperformance. Again, I think I really like Will Levis, and I think he's almost going to be more. He's going to kind of be like some of those Cal kids who are like Keldon Johnson, pretty good in college, not nothing amazing, goes to the NBA, he's a freaking star. It's going to be, he might be that type of guy. I truly believe that. And not just Will though. I think Barryon Brown is super exciting with the ball. He doesn't create as much separation as I thought he might right away. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Jaquez Jones getting hurt early has killed them. I thought he was 10 times better this year, just from a speed perspective, picking things up in this defense for a second year. That's hurt a lot. I think all things considered, the secondary's held up pretty well, but the defensive line, I think, has, everyone talks about the offensive line, and rightfully so. I think the defensive line struggling has kind of flown under the radar. You look at Octavius Oxendine, and this week, both Mark Stoops and Brad White talked about maybe that losing all that weight was not good for him. Yes, he's faster and he's, more explosive and more energetic, but they were talking about, you look how good Deion Walker's playing with all that weight and how well Ox was playing with all the weight last year. And, you missed that girth, is what Brad White said. So I look for him to put that weight back on, this offseason. So they're missing something there. We haven't really heard Trayvon Ripka, who's the starting defensive end's name called, outside of that sack he had in the fourth quarter when the game was lost at Tennessee. JJ Weaver missed some time. So, and then, Justin Rogers, Josiah Hayes, Khalil Saunders, they've made plays here and there, but, the push isn't the same as when you had the Quentin Bohannas or the Phil Hoskins, Marquand McCall. So I think that's been a part of it. I think it's been a mix of, I think the pieces, yeah, I think on paper they were always there, but they've either, the injury bug, which is an excuse to some degree, but really more so, it's underperformed. And that's where you have to look at not only the players, but you got to look at, in this case, Anwar Stewart and Rich Scangarello with the quarterbacks and Scott Woodyard with the receivers. Like, I hate to be that blunt about it, but it's true.
Yeah, I think they had the pieces. I think they have the pieces as a team, though, right? They got a good Kentucky coming into the season with everybody healthy. Had a good team, good senior leadership, a good nucleus. They got some young guys, but they had a good nucleus, a good team that they could have, did some. And I said this, they could have did some amazing things this year. But my thing is this, and people got to, and what you said earlier about the NIL stuff, and almost putting a cap on what they can do in recruiting. And I thought about this other day: would Stoops leave? Because and this is crazy. I think about some crazy stuff, but I was thinking like, okay, if he's not getting what he wanted in NIL, and he's not, he feel like there's a ceiling on how well he can recruit, that crossed my mind. Now,
yeah,
we'll set that aside and we'll go to the next thing. I think Will Levis is being like strangled by Scangarello. The kid doesn't halfway play as loose as he did last year. You don't see him taking off and running. I mean, like absolutely nothing. He's getting sacked when there's obviously, to me, he's a good enough athlete to be able to get out of some of those situations, and he's not getting out of them this year because he's been fed to take care of your body. We don't want to take hits. We want to be safe with you, right? And ultimately, it's hurting your offense. And then my next thing is, I heard Scangarello on this thing. He went on his diatribe yesterday.
Yeah.
Talking about, and they asked him, is the offense too complicated? And I see this question floating around social media. And again, I think as a whole, this is the best offense that Stoops had yet at Kentucky. As a whole, like receiver talent, running back depth and talent, quarterback talent, offensive line talent, because you can't tell me that the offensive line is not talented. I don't think they're playing.
The talent's there, yeah.
The talent is there. So as a whole, this was his best offense as a whole. But, I get a sense that they're way overdoing it with trying to be complicated, trying to be pro style, right? It's just like I'm in the stand sitting with this kid's family, and we're like counting it, like run, okay, 3rd and 8 pass. Run, 3rd and 10 pass. It's like come on, man. Like as a quarterback, I mean, you don't have much of a chance because what you're doing is you're kind of showing your hand. You're being predictable. So now as a quarterback, I have to be extra good on 3rd down to be able to complete passes. And now defenses are pinning their ears back. And Tennessee had a solid defense. I don't think they world beaters, but they're pretty good.
Up front.
Up front. Yeah, they're pretty solid up front. So, that was my thing, man. And I was just looking, like, man, like, how about, like, I hadn't seen an empty formation. I hadn't seen a designed quarterback run. Like, I hadn't seen, and I'm not trying to be critical of the guy too much, but there is blame there at the end of the day. You can call it what you want to call it. I don't know everything about football. Obviously, he's coaching the NFL. He may know more football than I do. But I do know that I'm going to let my projected first-round draft pick quarterback get loose. Spread some stuff out, throw the ball, use his arm strength with splits, right? Use my running backs in space. Jaton McClain is a weapon that's not being used enough. So Barryon Brown is not touching the ball on offense enough. And again, like, not trying to be too critical, but this is just what I see. It's just like they got to make some changes when it comes to the offensive scheme. I'm not saying they got to get rid of Scangarello, but Stoops got to sit down and like, look, we need to go a little bit more in this direction, because if you look across the landscape, and I tweeted this, look at the top 10 teams in the country. You got TCU's in there, USC's in there, UCLA was in there. I'm not sure what they are now. You could take out Georgia. Georgia don't really count with this. Alabama, um, obviously Tennessee. You can kind of take out Michigan, but you got teams like that the offensive teams or the offensive strength squads are drowning the top 25, drowning it. It's offense, it's tempo, it's throwing the ball around, it's letting your quarterback play free and play loose, right? That's what it is. Like, and at the end of the day, again, recruiting is tough when you're not moving at a certain pace where guys can get the ball. So I honestly, I was dumbfounded on Saturday. The Tennessee fans were sitting next to me, and they eventually found out who I was. But they were dumbfounded as well. Like, they was like, I can't believe that. It's like, don't they have a first? They asking me. They were like, don't they have a first round draft pick projected? Like, at quarterback, what? I mean, just straight dumbfounded. Like, I had a kid sitting next to me. He was like, all they do is run the ball. This is a kid. I'm like, man, that's not good. So
that ain't good.
Yeah, the last however many games, 4 or 5 games they have left, they have to produce on offense, and it has to look a little bit different. It has to. The kid is not in the NFL yet. Use his talent. Like, he's using like 30% of his talent. Like, use his talent. Like, let him play football, man. It's like, it's hard to watch. It is. Yeah. It is, man. I'm just being honest. It's really hard to watch because I know what we had when I was at Kentucky, and I look at their team. Well, they got more talent from top to bottom than what we had. Just calling a spade a spade. There's games where against good teams where we threw for more yards than that, and we had more offensive production than what they had, and we weren't as talented from top to bottom. So that's an issue, man, and that's a big issue. And I know Stoops is like, he's at a certain point. Just from me knowing him, some things going to have to change here soon.
Another question I've heard too, though. Neil Brown left because he became a head coach, but we keep seeing this trend of also some coordinators that maybe. Cohen left to go back to the Rams, but Shannon Dawson, Eddie Gran, we've seen out. At what point does you kind of have to look at Stoops? He's a defensive guy. We know that, but you at the top. It's your program. Now, Grant at Cincinnati, that's not the SEC, but he threw the ball around. He didn't just run and do Lynn Bowden at Cincinnati. He was hamstrung because his QB1s was seem to always get hurt at the start of the season, and he was having to kind of shift on the fly. But yeah, at some point, Stoops saying get it fixed. But how do you kind of look at yourself in this situation? And hey, man, because it's a pattern on the offensive coordinator bus trend situation.
Yeah, it's a tough situation because he had the guy in Liam, and Liam left. That's I think that's a big part of this, but I think at some point the bigger thing for Mark is what he's got to think about is, okay, is pro scheme the way to go, or the benefits that that Scangarello and Levis brought up to it is it's going to get you ready for the next level. And that kind of, they had that quote where it's real football, and you saw. What's that?
You got to win now, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You got to win now.
Exactly. That's where I was getting to. Exactly. But at what point does it become, you want to be the program that sends guys to the NFL, but you got to win games. So at one point does it go, okay, screw the pro style offense. We're going to have a more exciting, fast paced Tennessee-like offense. And it's not just Tennessee who has that, Art Briles style offense, and they're not the only machine offense out there. You look at Ole Miss's offense; it's damn good. They're just kind of like a quarterback play or a quarterback away from being a great offense. You look at TCU, what they're doing with Max Duggan. they're electric on offense. Georgia at times this year has been electric on offense. Alabama, we all know how good they are on offense. But, I'm not saying an air raid like State. I don't think that works as well. But, man, something with tempo, something where you're spreading the ball around to more receivers. You're mixing in the run. Yeah, you want to keep your identity, but it can't be Eddie Gran, and it can't be this. This just doesn't work. And we saw the best version of it last year where it was a true balanced attack. You let the quarterback play with risk, meaning letting him run and letting him throw the ball deep. You lived with the interception numbers. I mean, it just feels like this is an ultra conservative. I don't even feel like Eddie Gran's offense was this conservative. I really don't. Like, I know they ran the hell out of the ball, but that was partly, like you said, Vinny, personnel. They had issues at quarterback, whether that was recruiting a quarterback or injuries. But they had Benny Snell, they had Lynn Bowden, they had C-Rod, they had Smoke when he was at his best, and most importantly, they had a damn good old line, and they didn't have good receivers, so they played to their strengths. So if you have good receivers now, and you have good running backs, and you have a good quarterback, and you eventually think the offensive line will come around. It's time to just embrace a college offense. A college offense. This is college football. And you know what? If you make plays and you play great, your kids are still going to get to the NFL. Just wait till you see one. Look how well LSU's kids did. They played in a similar, not the same, but they played in a fast-paced, throw the ball mostly offense. And they had like 14 damn offensive players drafted. The same Tennessee, Cedric Tillman, Jalen Hyatt, Hendon Hooker. They're all going to play on Sundays, and even though they're not in a pro-style scheme.
Yeah. I think, you got to put a little blame on Stoops because at the end of the day, he's the head. He's the guy whose name's on the contract. But I do think they got it right last year with Cohen. It was just bad. I think he kind of found Cohen was like the perfect fix for him because they broke the huddle and ran some tempo type stuff every now and then, right? They spread it out and got you an empty and 2x2 and 3x1 every now and then, open sets. They put two tight ends on the field. They put a fullback on the field. They did enough, and what I've watched when I watched the film, they had consistent route concepts. Like it was consistent. Now they had one dog at receiver, but I think with Cohen, if he had this receiver room, you just can only imagine what he could do. But this offense this year the pass game looks kind of pieced together. They don't look like when Will Levis take a drop, it's not like he's taking a drop with confidence. It's like it's kind of just pieced together. It's like he's staring down. I don't know. It don't look fluid to me. So last year it kind of looked fluid. He was going through progressions, getting the ball out with some speed. Obviously getting the ball out to a really, really good receiver, but he was kind of getting that thing out with some speed. So I just think they need a little bit more fluidity. But yes, you can be pro style and still be exciting, and still throw it around and still tempo. I mean, look at what Ole Miss is doing. Ole Miss use tight ends all the time. They tempo you, and they're not necessarily pro style, but at the end of the day, they were leading the SEC at one point in rushing yards, and they may be still. They still are. Yeah. In rushing yards.
Yeah, they've got
Ole Miss is leading the SEC. I mean,
so Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, at the end of the day, again, there's a lot of blame to go around. I don't want to make this seem like it's like I'm being negative of the offense, but at the end of the day, they are underperforming.
You have every right to be negative with the offense when they're averaging 17 points a game in SEC play. That's the facts.
98 yards. I mean, we've had games in high school where we had a quarterback hurt where we are using a freshman backup, and we're able to get 98. You know what I'm saying? Like we're able to do that. So let's call it what it is too. But it is. I mean, it is what it is. I just kind of now he's going to go. I think the quarterback's going to go first round regardless of how he plays the rest of the game because what people are going to say about him, and he just check all the boxes. But I kind of feel bad for him in a way where he's not like fulfilling his potential because I think he could be that guy, and it's not panning out. The last few games. And I know he had an injury and all of that stuff too, but it's not like
And that's
against
due
good
to,
teams. It's not.
that's due to the O line not gelling too. That's why he
Yeah.
gotten beat up. So
Yeah, it's a
it's a
tough.
circle.
There's
Yeah.
no two things with Will. There's even with missing a game, there's no way a guy of his talent should rank 64th in the country in passing yards. He
No.
should just be able to throw it more. And two, Matt Miller, who's an NFL, he's with the draft scout now, and he's one of the more, it's kind of like Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, and then everybody else, right? And he said, and he's kind of like at the top of that, everyone else. And he said, what he's heard from NFL teams is that they're having, they like him a lot. They really want to love him a lot, but they're having trouble evaluating him not because of the players around him, because of the play call. Shouldn't that tell you what you need to know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Didn't mention at the beginning, but we're coming to y'all courtesy of Believe.com as always. So go to Believe.com and get every episode of this podcast or wherever you get your podcast. Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, all those different platforms you can listen. We're also featured on Stadium, Believe TV, National Tune In Radio, all kind of different ways to listen or watch this podcast. We definitely appreciate everybody that takes the time to do so. And as always, we're featured on A Sea of Blue. They put each episode on their website, so we appreciate that as well. So I just want to let y'all know and subscribe, rate, review, tell your friends, retweet us, follow us on Twitter and Facebook and TikTok and all that. Got a Facebook page now, so if you're on Facebook, go and like it and all that good stuff. So definitely appreciate it. And going back to what y'all talked about Harsin, because he said that everything's cool when he took that picture with Bruce Pearl and all that. I said AG when we was first on here, he's probably gonna be the first dude to get fired. Yeah. And you don't want to see somebody lose a job, but he was the first guy. I thought it was between him and Drinkwitz. Drinkwitz has turned it around. Harsin, I didn't think it was that great a fit. No. Jump coming from Boise, and I'm like coming to Auburn, and it finally, the AD is changing, and Cohen, who coached baseball at Kentucky before going to Mississippi State, now he's at
very
Auburn.
Close with Mitch Barnhart. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, and I think Lane. It sounds from everything that they're going to go hard at Lane Kiffin, and they are in a way better NIL situation than a lot of schools, including Ole Miss. But you already know Stoops is on that list. I don't know. I don't think necessarily that would happen, but yeah, you're going to start hearing this chatter when all these big names open up, and Auburn's that's a great job. I mean, it's a really, really great job, and it's going to be interesting to see how they fill it. But yeah, like you said, Harsin was just not the best fit. It happens, but they made the right move, and we'll see what they do. But yeah, it's gonna be very interesting where this goes with Stoops. And I'm not saying by any means he's gonna leave, but Jalen was kind of hitting on it with Kentucky behind the ball with NIL. With the recruiting class not having this, they're not having the same success recruiting as they did last year right now. The potential with the transfer portal, just how the offense is looking. You have to. That's why winning these games is so important too, man. You gotta have that. You want Stoops to have that swagger back to say, okay, we can still get to where we want to go. He was talking about Monday how he was all jacked up, but he admitted that he was really down, and it was kind of a pep talk from Eli Capilouto that picked him back up. That I've never heard him be that open about getting down like that. So that was a little bit concerning to me, but he's obviously been extraordinarily loyal. I mean, we've seen, so many schools like Florida State, Miami, that have opened up and that he has connections to, and he turned them down. Hasn't really even gone far in the meeting with them. So I'm not sure anything's going to happen this cycle here, but man, is it getting into that territory where if the right one opens, it could be possible if they don't start winning some games and start, proving why to recruits that they should be coming to play here, at least on the offensive side of the ball. And again, the transfer portal, not just for the guys that are like the Dekel Crowdis, Chris Lewis, Magwood, some of the guys who don't play as much that, they really want to get the ball, but some of the bigger names on this roster who are playing well, they're not winning games, and they're not making as much money as they can make elsewhere.
Interesting.
Yeah, man. I think you kind of hit it on the head. But you hate to see coaches get fired.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's a human being, losing his job, got to move his family. And for the lower level coaches on the staff, I mean, who maybe know, again, my cousin's on Auburn staff. So, I wasn't like happy to, I knew Harsin would get fired this year. I just, preseason, I was like, yeah, he won't last very long.
Yeah.
But, I hate it because, again, like I got a family member on the staff, so
Yeah.
he may have to relocate and, it's a lot, man. It's a lot that, coaches go through when it comes to that. And at the end of the day, they're human beings. So you hate to see that. But on the flip side, it's a business, man. It's a results business. We know that, obviously. I think some people in Kentucky is going to find that out soon. And I do believe that Auburn is going to make a hire that's going to kind of splash a little bit, whether they take Hugh Freeze out of Liberty, whether they take Lane Kiffin out of Ole Miss. They're gonna hire an offensive juggernaut. Is what it's gonna do, and that's what I would do if I were an AD right now. Right? That's what's gonna. At the end of the day, I always say this, and I told some people this about Tennessee. I was like, with Josh Heupel, okay, let's say Josh Heupel's a 6-6 coach, right? He's average, 7-5 some years. He may get to 8-4, whatever, which may be the case. Maybe they're just having a hell of a year this year, but at the end of the day, those people in Tennessee are gonna get them butts in the seats because they want to see that offense. Mm-hmm. They want to see them fireworks shooting when they tempo on everybody and scoring touchdowns. They want to see that. So that's exciting. So I think Auburn's gonna go that way. I think deep down, a lot of people at Auburn, I think some of the people who cutting the checks at Auburn know that Auburn has a ceiling. As long as Nick Saban's in Tuscaloosa, as long as Kirby Smart is in Athens, Georgia, now, you got Tennessee, you got LSU with Brian. I mean, as long as these guys are there, I think they know that Auburn has a ceiling. They just want to get closer to that ceiling and generate more revenue in the city of Auburn with the university. So what's going to help them do that is somebody bold like a Lane Kiffin, somebody who's known to be competitive against the likes of Nick Saban, like a Hugh Freeze. So I just think that's the way they want to go. Now, they could, make a hire somewhere else and go pick up not Niblett, but go pick up Lincoln Riley from TCU, Lincoln Riley's brother, is the coordinator at TCU. I think those type of moves they're looking at somebody exciting to kind of bring some offense to Auburn. At the end of the day, let's get more butts in the seats. We obviously want to win, but at the end of the day, we need recruits to love what we do. We need to get more butts in the seats at games. We need to generate more revenue. I think they can do that. Now, you could say Dion maybe, but I just don't know if they're going to go that route.
Him and Cohen's supposed to be tight. Him and Cohen's supposed to be buddies.
They are buddies.
Yeah, if they do go that route, and I said to somebody the other day, I think day one, Dion out-recruits everybody in the country, period.
Oh, easily.
Day one.
He's out-recruiting people at Jackson State.
Yeah, he's gonna drive Nick Saban to early retirement. Like he's gonna out-recruit everybody in the country because you're not about to out-recruit him. You're not. He's just the way he do things. He's a winner, man. He's a winner. I mean, however many state championships he won as a head coach in high school in Texas. I mean, as soon as he get to Jackson State, he just turns things. He's a winner. And he just got that about him, and kids want to play for that. Travis Hunter going to follow him. Shadur Sanders, his son, going to follow him. He's going to be able to get his assistant coaches significant bumps and pay raises. So they're gonna, they'll turn some things around. So we'll see, man. If they don't hire offense, there'll be a splash with Dion. But I just don't know if they want to. I don't know if they're gonna go that far with it though. They could, but I don't know.
Auburn got them old school boosters that's kind of like a bunch of Jerry Joneses. They kind of up in it and meddlesome, and they got heading hands and fingers and everything that's going on. So Auburn is a good job. Every SEC job is high pressure, but Auburn, you can't do nothing without them looking, well, Alabama, they doing this. Well, they doing it. You little brother in that state, like Louisville is in Kentucky. So everything gets compared to what Saban and the fellas in Tuscaloosa is doing. Every move gets micromanaged. And whoever's going to be the coach has got to know that that's just how it's going to be when you take that job.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with
Yeah.
that. That's a fact.
Yep.
We always talking football here, especially Jalen been coming on dropping knowledge, and we've been football heavy. But I know it's the crossover time, Aaron. You already covering basketball, but
Yeah.
can't come on here and not talk Kentucky, which is a Kentucky podcast, and without giving condolences to the family of Damian Collins,
Oh,
who unexpectedly
yeah.
lost his father after they just moved up to Lexington. Big sophomore season, exhibition games, the dude is hitting jumpers, and you seeing the additions he's made to his game. Dad and the family moved to Lexington to be closer to him, and he unexpectedly passed. Damien just turned 20 years old.
Yeah.
I lost my dad last year at age 43. I can't imagine losing, being a sophomore in college and losing your dad unexpectedly like that. So just
No.
your heart just ached when what somebody said they saw it on his Snapchat, and then Kyle Tucker confirmed it.
Yeah.
Oh my, oh
It's just awful. Yeah. All the best to his family, and obviously praying for the best for them, and condolences out. And yeah, it's an awful situation. I'd be surprised if Damien, nor should he, play tomorrow night, in a preseason game. And, hopefully he's doing all right. And I know Case and Wallace, man, they're cousins. So there's some family ties even on the roster. So yeah, horrible. I can't imagine it. And yeah, they're going to be playing with heavy hearts. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, man. My condolences to to the family. I mean, that's tough, man. Young man like that. Like you said, he should definitely take some time away. I could only imagine.
yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, college kid, your school basketball, it's just a lot. So you're
Yeah.
dealing with a lot, man. So again, sending positive vibes that way.
And we know how the fan base is as far as all sports, but especially basketball, as far
Mm-hmm.
as everything. You talk about being in a microscope, and you talked about the Auburn coach go get micromanaged and nitpicked. Well, every basketball game, every play, every player. So if and when college does come back, there's going to be fans out there critiquing his game if he's not playing well and all this and that, and totally forgetting about what he's going through.
Yeah.
You can't even. Sure, you a big time college player. You here to win. You here to go to the league. You here to put tape out there for everybody to see. But you can't even, in my opinion, look at him through the same lens. I think even for this season, even if
I
he comes
agree.
back and tries to play, but there's gonna be some. Oh man, Collins, man, he didn't box out on this and that and other, and he's getting bullied in the post. And it's all that's out the window right now with him for me. That's just
Yeah.
me.
No, it's not even fair. I mean, at least,
No, no.
especially early in the season. It's not fair. It really isn't. Life is bigger than basketball, and he's going to be playing with a heavy heart. Some guys play out of their minds when they're in that situation, and they want it. They're doing it for, they're playing motivated, but others might struggle. And when it comes to Damian Collins, man, you gotta pump the brakes and let the kid breathe this season. And obviously, they have a lot of depth in the front court. And if they really feel like he's not getting the job done and his mind needs to be elsewhere, which is fine, they'll make the right decisions personnel wise. So yeah, hopefully the fan base is smart enough. And I like to think it's a pretty smart fan base, even though it's delusional at times, it's crazy at times, but they know basketball. They're not dummies. And I think that I hope that people will understand that and give the kid a little bit of a pass if he, does hit some struggles. And, we were, expecting a big growth from him this year, but we didn't know anything really. He hasn't played a minute yet in the regular season, and now he's going through this. So yeah, hopefully Big Blue Nation will take it a little easy on him. And it's still they have the right to have high expectations for this team. They have the right to expect a national championship, but they don't have the right to mess with someone's mental health.
Yeah, I think they'll understand, man. I think so. The thing that I worry about is, everybody's so on edge about this year being a year that we kind of come back in
Yeah.
basketball. And I just hope that don't spill over to people just being, just inconsiderate. when it comes to certain things. Because, one one thing that was very alarming to me, and I think, they have good pieces on the team. And this is going to be, obviously, it always is with Calipari's team early in the year. It's always like a slow build up. But, it was kind of alarming to me when he came out and left that message.
Very alarming.
I'm like, oh, man, that's not, but, maybe he just felt that way or whatever. He just felt like he needed to do that. But I was looking at some of the comments and I'm like, man, that, I don't know. But, again, hopefully fans are considerate, and I think they will. You do have adults out here who are very childish. I'm just looking at comments from the football game, and I'm like, man,
oh my,
like let it. It's Wednesday. Let it go. Like let it go. I mean, trust me. There's fans out here who will, you got fans and you got fanatics, and it's the same thing. You got the fanatics will slide into a kid's DM and talk trash.
It's crazy
because they didn't. I had that happen to me on multiple occasions. If I read some of those messages to y'all would be like, what? Like, people do that, man. Grown adults, 50 plus, slide into a 19-year-old kid DM trying to, bashing him because he threw an interception or he didn't box out. That happens. But hopefully they're considerate and kind of, let the thing, kind of slowly pass if that's even, a thing. I don't even know. I mean, that's a tough situation. But we'll see, man. Hopefully the fans are basketball smart, though. One thing I can't say about Kentucky fans, they are.
To your point, Aaron, you said sometimes players have come back and played out of their minds. We've seen that before on the pro level. You guys were young, but Brett Favre
that was exactly the example I was thinking. Yeah.
Threw 4 touchdowns on a Monday night. Now his decision making off the field, especially of late, not that great.
We're just talking about that football game. That's it.
His decision making on the field sometimes wasn't that great. He's an NFL all-time interception leader too. But he's a Hall of Famer. In that game, he did 4 touchdowns with the loss of your father. Out of his mind, he lit the Raiders up that night. So it could, on the flip side, that could play out that way too.
Yeah. Yeah, but putting all that aside, real quick on that Cal video, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? And that was before, obviously, this awful news. But that obviously the preseason game was ugly. They scored 56 points outside of CJ Frederick. They couldn't shoot. It was a mess. Whatever. You're dealing with injuries, but I don't know, man. I don't come out and say that. It basically sounds to me, hey, guys, we're going to lose to Gonzaga. We might lose to Michigan State, but don't panic. And I get the no panic message. It's early, whatever. But, man, just let the games play. Like, it feels like you're doubting your own team when you say that. I don't think Mark Stoops has ever said anything like that going into – he didn't say anything like that going into the Tennessee game, where pretty much everyone knew they were going to lose. I don't think any of us really thought they were going to win. I don't think you'll see him say that before they play Georgia in a couple weeks. I know that he's not going to say that when they play Alabama next year. Like he what was his quote before the season? Like, they talk about 10-2. He's like, what game am I giving up? Yeah. That has that vibe to it. And it's like those things with Cal, man. It's like he takes a step forward with the fan base, with the way he recruits, or, I don't know, if he has a good press conference, whatever, he takes a step forward and then he takes 2 steps back with crap like this, or they haven't seen him yet, or, most importantly, losing. So I just couldn't believe that video. I was just like, this is not how you start a year when you're coming off such a brutal ending.
Yeah, it's a terrible message to send to your players, man. Like,
yeah, exactly.
He's like, it may be a little bit shaky. Like if I'm a player, I'm like, man, does he believe in us?
Right, exactly.
That's you don't do that. If you lose, you just chalk it up. We got to do a better job. At the end of the day, it comes with the territory. But I don't know. I didn't agree with that. But maybe he knew. I don't know. Maybe they know something we don't know.
They're going to lose to Gonzaga now. I put the money on it.
Man.
Oh man, we covered a lot as we always do. Before we close it out, got to talk about our friends at La Terrain. Make men's designer watches Watches for women as well, accessories. Own a timeless wristwatch made with pride. They're built and designed for watch enthusiasts. Go to the site, subscribe to the newsletter, get entered for a chance to win a $500 gift card. So that's motivation in itself to go and check out the site. Hit them with a question in the chat about any watch that they have, and they will answer whatever questions you got. So you will know what you're purchasing. LaTouraine.com, don't forget the dash, TOURAINE.com, LaTouraine.com. Dave and Ben got you covered. Got you a fresh watch to go with whatever look you're trying to roll out with. So go to LaTouraine.com. Tell them you heard about them on the Believe in Kentucky podcast. And as mentioned, you got several different ways to access this podcast. And we can't really announce it yet, but we've been talking to Texan. We got some more stuff we're going to roll out and let y'all know about in the coming days or weeks or in the future. So keep tuning in to find out. And we'll be excited to let y'all know what's coming down the pipe here. From the three of us, been kind of working on. So good stuff, fellas. Jalen, Aaron, man, appreciate y'all. Enjoy your weekend. Look for the positives on the way to Como, Aaron. Maybe it's a good restaurant or something out there that can make the trip worth your while. In addition to doing your job and covering the game, look for the positives, man. Accentuate the positives.
I and I was about to say it can kind of come off as we're being super negative. Now I do, have faith that we can beat Missouri.
They're the better team.
And we should, and they got to have the confidence. I'm sure Stoops has talked to him. He's good about that. But, this is a game that, Kentucky can win. And I'm not saying it's easy, but this is a game that Kentucky should win.
They're the better football team on paper.
Yeah. Just allow, just defense play their game. Just play good on defense. And offense, let Will Levis do his thing. Let him play to his strength, man. And get the ball to your playmakers at the end of the day. If you lose doing that, then maybe you're supposed to. I think they'll be fine when they do that.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. They have the better roster. They have the better players. It's a matter of execution.
Yep.
AG, man, what you got coming out on the Cats Pause? Everybody following?
Yeah, nothing specific. We'll see what happens with these games. Just taking it day by day. It's a busy time of year. November is probably the hardest month on the job, but it's what you look for, so it'll be fun.
And tell everybody about BTG, Jalen. What can people get? What can they plug? How can they find out? What can they do?
Yeah, man. BTGathletics.com. Actually, we're actually construction on the site right now, so we're getting everything else together, getting the store back up, getting some merch back together. But I am looking forward, and people can get this out there. I'm looking forward to coming to Kentucky this all season and spending some time up there. And if there's any high school quarterbacks or middle school quarterbacks in the area that want to get better, that want to train the way, in my opinion, that you're supposed to train at this position to perform on game day the way you need to perform, holla at me. We can get it together, man. We can get you all season going in the right direction. But other than that, man, I hope everybody's doing well. A bounce back week this week on Saturday. Aaron Gershon is going to bring some positive energy to the team when he hit Columbia, Missouri.
Oh yeah, it.
We'll be looking forward to getting that W out there, man. So, but yeah,
get it done.
All good.
There you go. So we got the catspause.com for Aaron, btgathletics.com for Jalen. For both of them, my name is Vinny Hardy. Come to Believe.com or wherever you get your podcasts to listen to us. And we will be back next week to talk about everything that happens between now and then. Y'all be safe. We'll holler at y'all later.